Hey, good Tuesday evening, everyone. Welcome to the Illinois Freedom Caucus Tuesday night roundtable. We're a little bit off our 7 o'clock start time, but that's all good. The content will be even better that it's aged 18 minutes longer now. So, guys, hopefully we are live, and hopefully we'll be in demand. So if you're watching this after 7:18 on a Tuesday night, please like, share, follow, subscribe to our content, help us to overcome the algorithmic gods of the big tech overlords. With that, Chris Miller, Representative Leader Chairman, welcome to the show tonight. What's going on in East Central Illinois on this rather nice 2 days we've had out and about here? The weather's been fantastic before we head into these triple-digit heat indexes this weekend.
Well, Leader Holbrook, it's been a great day here in Paradise. The temperature has been perfect. I've been driving around in circles, putting on nitrogen for the little CO2 capturing plants that I have out there growing rapidly in the field. But that all went well. And so we were able to kind of run out of my juice at just the right time so I could come in and make the town hall this evening.
Excellent, excellent. Well, you're right, and it just seems like we put a little nitrogen fertilizer on our corn about a week ago, and finally over the weekend, it looked like it kind of started to get rid of that yellowish cast and starting to. And boy, the last couple of days, the corn is really starting to turn on here and green up and take in all that carbon capturing that it's supposed to do naturally and turn it into. Hopefully those yellow golden kernels of corn here in about 120 days and will produce lots of oxygen in the meantime for us to use. With that, enough of this banter. Let's welcome also to the show tonight our Executive State Director, Colin Mosley. What's going on, Colin?
Hey, well, it's good to be here. And hey, I'm doing my part on the old carbon sequestration. I've got I don't know, probably about 150 square foot garden in my backyard. So I'm doing my part. Hey, it's not quite a pipeline, but it's something. But it's good to be here this evening to talk about all of the great things taking place in the state of Illinois.
Well, exactly. And we can have a lot of fun with this CO2 stuff. And we can talk. I think we'll spend a whole 30 minutes or 20 down the road here probably talking about CO2. What's the dangers of that carbon capture that you got going on, Colin? If that garden happens to explode, how many people will be asphyxiated when that garden explodes?
Right. Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, there's no danger of that, but there sure would be with a high pressure line running underneath my neighborhood.
Right. You're going to enjoy the benefits of fresh tomatoes and cucumbers and green beans and all that, and sweet corn. I'm sure it's going to be fantastic here in about
absolutely
60, 80, 90 days or so. So
right. Yeah. It's about as sweet as Taylor Costa Howard.
With that, let's go. As the famous representative from Glen Ellen once said on the House floor just a few short weeks ago, let's go. With that, let's bring our slides on. And so again, we're going to talk about two really, really important topics is this grocery tax gimmick and what it is to be adjusted impacted individual. Chris, before we started, you were kind of talking, well, let's just get into it. And then we'll get into the language, I guess, kind of the need for a dictionary here at the Illinois General Assembly. So HB 3144, grocery tax, turned into an omnibus bill. I think this was 181 pages, if I remember correctly. To cut the grocery tax 1%. Why would it take 181 pages to do that?
Well, because it wasn't a clean bill, and the go ahead. Go ahead, Chris.
Oh no, I think he froze up again.
Just going to say anytime that you start adding Democrats ascribing everything, that it's bound to be packed with pork and other things that aren't going to be beneficial to the typical Illinois taxpayers. And once again, they didn't disappoint us because they turned this singular page bill into 181 pages. And once again, the Democrats have muddied the water, and what we end up with is a omnibus tax increase, unfortunately, for the citizens of Illinois.
Right. And if you're new to this thing, an omnibus, you're not sure what that means. It means mini, and bus is just kind of the carrier. So it carries lots of things. And again, people say, well, I thought we were a single issue state as described in the Constitution. We are, but these things are the single issue is tax. And so that's why they put multiple tax things in the one
Tax increases.
tax increases.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. Well, and the other problem too is this is, and it might be on the next slide, but this is purely a move to garner political cover from the governor. He wants to have one hand to be able to claim a tax cut, but also not upset any of his mayors, his local governments, his townships, whatever, by extending the authority to tax. And again, I know it's on the next slide, but we have given unprotected taxing authority now, and the local taxpayers are going to be the ones who suffer the wrath because we can't do anything clean in Springfield.
Right. And that's to your first bullet there is why I mean, if the governor wants to grant relief, right, why doesn't he do it one at a time? Let us have a clean bill, whatever the issue is out, without muddying it up and loading it up with all kinds of other stuff in there that doesn't really have anything to do with what he asked for back in February, was this grocery tax that's collected locally and it stays locally. So the governor didn't really lose anything here. And Colin, I think you touched on it. This gives the local boards and city councils and what have you the authority to impose this tax. Now, when this happened back 2 years ago during the election, the governor backfilled the difference, if you will, with some other state funds or other GRF to make these communities whole. But this is several $100 million that these communities are going to come up short.
Yeah, I mean, I know I talked to my mayor this morning, and it's for the the city of Flora, which is right under 5,000 people. It's, I think, a little over $100,000 in revenue, which again wouldn't be as big of a deal if the state hadn't, basically walked away from its local government distributive fund deal and continues to underfund local governments.
Right. And that'll be a topic also for another day, is just kind of discuss. Maybe we can bring a mayor or two in and kind of talk about the local distributive fund. You would think that as flush as the state of Illinois has been, supposedly, as they say they are, the last couple of years, they would have restored that almost 4% difference that now they're keeping and not sending back to the local municipalities. But no, they seem to find places for all that money.
Well, one thing that you guys are missing here is this is not a tax, it's a revenue enhancement. And, but what we've seen is a continual, developing predictable pattern behavior because they have no fiscal discipline to quit spending money. The budget this year was 2.5 billion more than last year. And all told, during J.B. Pritzker's regime, he's increased spending by $15 billion. And so the only way to fill that hole that they have created because of bad public policy is they've got to have revenue enhancements, or what we would refer to as tax increases.
Right.
Unfortunately.
Right. So this gives the locals the ability to raise this without a referendum. So, we like the idea of cutting taxes, right? And we like the idea of local control, but we also like the idea that when you're going to put taxes in place or create a new governmental unit, that you let it go before the voters. This could be a little bit problematic for city councils or city council members, but yeah, so that's the killer in this bill, is they can do this without voter referendum. I think that's really a bad idea. In addition, let's just talk real briefly here before we move on about some of the other taxes. This will allow, if you're in Cook County, maybe the surrounding counties, I'm not sure how far outreaching, there's a 1.25% tax for the RTA, the transportation, the deal up there. There's a 911 surcharge. What else? It allows for
There was a hotel tax increase in Sangamon County too.
Sangamon and Cook County are spelled out specifically, but it gives every county, is it 3% is a hotel tax?
I think so.
Yeah. And then just, I guess the other main thing is this goes into effect a year and a half out, right? January 1st, 2026?
Yeah.
Right.
I think so. Okay. Hey, guys, before we move to the next slide, is there anything else we want to touch on here on the grocery tax issue?
I just think that this is typical out of the Democrat playbook, is a irresponsibly spend, and then they have an oh crap moment and think, well, we don't have a balanced budget. It's not even close to being balanced. In fact, it's $1 billion out of balance. So what are we going to do? And in desperation, they think, well, let's go to the taxpayers once again, and we'll in this way. Pritzker is trying to wash his hands and then blame the local authorities for trying to fill the hole in the budget that they have because of the Democrats' irresponsible spending and J.B. Pritzker's poor public policy. And so it's out of desperation that they're doing this. But it's like Reagan once said. He said, if it moves, they tax it. If it keeps moving, they regulate it, and if it stops moving, they subsidize it. and,
That's right.
and we can see this happening in real time, both here and in Washington, D.C.
Exactly
Right.
right. Exactly right.
I got Brad. If I could, just one more quick point is the governor has talked about how horrible this tax is. Right? It's regressive. It taxes things people need to live, aka food. Right? All of these things. Well, if it's that bad, then why would he be giving the green light for somebody else to do it to his same taxpayers? That's what I think is another farce in this whole conversation. We supported cutting the grocery tax. We didn't support a tax omnibus. But the governor has railed about how horrible this is, how regressive it is, how it affects minorities, yada, yada, yada. But he's sure as heck okay, if the city of Chicago or whoever, right, whatever suburb, wants to impose this tax anyway. So really, it's no longer a moral issue for him. It's a matter of addition and subtraction.
Right, exactly. And again, they talk about local control, and I talked about this, I think, in one of my questions of one of the bills. I think it was on the CO2 bill. It's like, how do they decide when they're for local control and when they're not? Okay, and this is a situation to say, well, we like the idea. Yeah, I thought you guys like local control, but then when it come to the CO2 business, well, they didn't want to give us local control on that one.
Right.
So just the hypocrisy is thick enough to cut with a knife.
Mm-hmm.
Anyhow.
Dark one.
All right, next slide, gentlemen. So justice impacted individuals. What in the world? How do you become a justice impacted individual?
I don't know how you kept a straight face when you mentioned justice impacted individuals. We used to call them criminals or lawbreakers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, offenders, criminals, lawbreakers. That's what we're talking about out there in the ether. But this is the new language. It's called justice impacted individuals. So I don't know if you can just be walking down the street and you can be impacted by this justice.
Right. Yeah, we used to call people crime victims, and now I guess they'll be justice impacted individuals. I mean, it's ridiculous. And I know that right now this language only applies to a certain group of what are currently known as offenders. But as we've seen in Springfield, it's a slippery slope. Right. And this starts out this way today, and you give it another general assembly and it'll be more offenses, more offenders, more programs. And suddenly we've lost the word offender, except for maybe a class X felony.
Right.
This is what they want to do. And as the slide says, we support helping people to become members of society that are productive, which is also a laughable conversation whenever this program is supposedly meant to encourage productive members of society, but yet we still are offering taxpayer-funded welfare to illegal immigrants.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. So again, the language is in transition here, and so once the language is completely changed, then the revolution could be considered complete. I know that may be a little bit out there, but you have to think about that one a little bit. Anything else on this slide before we move on, gentlemen? All right. With that, let's go to this slide, and Chris and Colin, we're taking the show on the road, if you will, again, and doing some town halls. Looks like our first one just in a couple of weeks, June 25th, in Decatur at the Restore Our Constitution event. we've all been there, done individual things and group things in the past, but that's always a nice event out at the Decatur Convention Center, out on the west side of town, the old Holiday Inn, I think it is.
Yeah.
Chris or Colin, I'll let you comment and tell us about the one in Chicago at Trump Tower.
Why don't you go ahead, Colin?
Sure. Well, I think that first of all, both of these events, as are all of our town halls, we seek to take the truth, logic, and common sense on the road. It's a awesome presentation about what's going on in Springfield, and truthfully, it's viewpoints you're not going to hear anywhere else. And this one in Chicago specifically, the Chicago Black Republicans are doing excellent work to drive up the Black and African American Republican voter turnout, and they were successful in doing that this past primary. And they've asked us to come up, as we came up and visited with them in January, as we saw the illegal immigration, just the horrific state of that in Chicago. We've really endeared ourselves to each other, and so we're looking forward to being up there with them to give our presentation and talk about how conservatives and Chicago Black Republicans can work together.
Right. Right. So the start time in Decatur, I think, is going to be 6:30 that evening. What will be the start time? I assume we have a start time for the Chicago one.
I think it's 6. I didn't put it on there because I wasn't totally, but I believe it's 6.
Okay. And I guess, of course, the best advice is to always check our social media. And I'm going to bring up the next slide here, which will be our website, which would be the best thing to do is subscribe to that Substack. Colin, I know more and more folks are using Substack. It's easy to get to. All the stuff is there. It's easy to find. That's going to be the best way to keep up to date on these things, and when and where and all the additions and things. So that's going to be the best way to do that. And if you feel the need to contribute, we would appreciate any financial contribution to help us keep this effort moving and expand freedom all across the state of Illinois.
Right.
All right, let's do this. And there we're all back. So hopefully you've all enjoyed this evening. And again, it's just, we always appreciate you joining us on a Tuesday night and sharing this and replaying it over and over again. We're going to try to do this every Tuesday night as best we can through the summer, unless we're into like doing a town hall or something, or you can come and see us live. But hopefully we'll pick up a couple of different bills every Tuesday night and kind of give you a rundown on these major topics that were passed through the spring. With that, Colin, any closing comments, thoughts, concerns?
All I have to say is, first of all, thank you for watching. And second of all, hey, we just got news that the Senate has posted dates for veto session in November. So you just can't get away from Springfield. What are we, 2 weeks past adjournment, and we're talking about the fall. So I can't wait to see what ideas they dream up for this fall.
Well, Chris, you can believe that it's going to be cutting edge ideas.
I can't wait.
Hopefully they'll hand out a program or a dictionary with all these new words that they're using.
Mm-hmm.
Chris, I'll let you have closing comments, and then
I think that we would be remiss if we didn't mention the partisan witch hunts that just is concluded out in New York City with the attack on the people's president, Donald J. Trump. And the only reason why they're doing this is trying to keep him off the campaign trail, because Joe Biden can't put two sentences together without mumbling and stumbling. He's totally impaired. And I'm looking so forward to in November when we can fire a failed, probably the worst president of my lifetime, Joe Biden, and elect probably the best president of my lifetime, and that's Donald J. Trump. And we can return to a booming economy, a secure border, energy independence, opportunity after opportunity. If you think about it, employment was high, inflation was low. And I long to visit those days once again.
Right. Exactly.
Make America great again.
Right. All right, gentlemen, thank you for joining us tonight. And again, we appreciate you being here tonight. With that, I'm going to hit the out video, and we'll talk to you real soon. Let us know how we can help you.